My mom is such a sweet woman. Whenever you call her on the phone, she'll be like, oh, hello, hi, how are you today? Oh my goodness. But whenever she gets angry, she doesn't sound like that. But my mom has raised me from the ground up. I was homeschooled all throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school. And she's been a very important part of my life. But one of the things that she had done for me when I was just a young baby was she had written a lullaby, and she would sing it to me when I was younger. And so whenever I had approached Dr. Buriga talking about how I'd love to do an honors project, I had said I'd love to sing for the honors project, and she was like, oh, that would be so good, but you need to find something that means something to you. So this is how I chose that lullaby. So what we had done was we had sat down one day after class and we worked on the translation of the actual words, and this was how the translation goes. Mi nombre es Mason y te amo. Estoy pensando en ti día y noche. Mi nombre es Mason y te amo y voy a estar cantando todo el día. Tú eres mi sol y te amo, no hay nada que yo no haría por ti. Eres mi esperanza, eres mi vida. Con mucho gusto daría mi vida por ti. Whenever I translated that, I was so pleased with how it sounded because it flowed so wonderfully. But this is a literal translation of what the Spanish translation was. And it says, my name is Mason, and I love you. I'm thinking about you day and night. My name is Mason, and I love you, and I'll be singing all day. You are my sunshine, and I love you. There's nothing I would not do for you. You are my hope. You are my life. I will gladly give my life for you. So, now I will sing the song that my mother wrote for me, so in English, so you all will understand it. My name is Mason, and I love you. I'm thinking of you both night and day. My name is Mason, and I love you, and I'll be singing all the day. You are my sunshine, and I love you. There is nothing I wouldn't do. You give me hope, you are my life, and for you I'd happily give my life. And so, thank you, or should I say gracias?
My name's Kenny Collins, as he just said, and a lot of you guys know me and just met me. But hopefully, you'll remember that name for when I run for president in the near future. But I don't have no PowerPoint. I chose not to do a PowerPoint. I just want to get up here and speak on the presentation that I did last semester for Professor Alfonso. And I'd like to give a thank you to Professor Alfonso and Dr. Lee, who is not here. He must be stuck in traffic. So I'll have to pound him about why and harass him about why he did not show up today. But the presentation that I did last semester, first I'd like to thank Sue Lee for doing the joint presentation with me on W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. It was very fun working with her. The presentation that I did last semester was about literary influences that could have impacted Ron Paul. And when I first started researching, I'm like, wow, I wonder who could have impacted Ron Paul's life. Ron Paul served 16 years in Congress, ran for president 3 times, and he has a large, loyal fan base. And he spoke in Knoxville 2 weeks ago at the Knox County Lincoln Day dinner, and it was the second largest crowd ever, besides Newt Gingrich in '94 when the Republicans took control of the House. And it was a dream come true to meet the man. He opened my eyes to a lot of issues, a lot of economic issues. But the presentation that I did last semester, I focused on about 3 or 4 different authors, and I'd like to mention 2 or 3 of them today. Henry David Thoreau. A lot of people know who Henry David Thoreau is, with civil disobedience, and you need to read it if you haven't read it. It's great, and it's part of our history, and it's still taking place today, and even throughout time. Allen Ginsberg during the Vietnam War, and I like to call myself a libertarian, strong conservative, and liberal on civil liberties. And but Allen Ginsberg, he protested the IRS, wouldn't pay the IRS any taxes, and so that sort of goes along with Henry David Thoreau in his civil disobedience, protesting for what he believed in. And as citizens of the United States, if something's unjust, then we should speak out against it and get active. It's our duty, I believe. And same as Allen Ginsberg did. And I just wish that many more of us would. But Lysander Spooner, probably nobody in this room besides Professor Alfonso has heard who Lysander Spooner is. He's a very interesting man. He was known at the time during the 19th century as an anarchist, but in today's perspective, I'd put him as a conservative. He was a little bit far to the right of what today's conservatism is, but the man was remarkable for somebody who loves politics. When I started researching Lysander Spooner, it was amazing what he did. I mean, he came from a fairly, not a rich background, but he made himself into what he was. And he started many important issues. And one of those issues are jury nullification. And some of you may know what that is. A lot of you probably don't, because it's not broadcasted. But say if a jury doesn't like what a law, say we're on a jury and we're listening to a trial and we believe that the law is unjust, jury nullification is when we can nullify a law by a simple jury trial, and it makes a stand. And it can happen in the Roane County General Sessions Court. Take the red light camera, or any traffic violation that we don't think is right, we can do that, and we can, if somebody was invited, we can nullify the law. And it's really just a symbolic statement. But Lysander Spooner, anybody who follows the news and politics, you know about the post office is in debt, much like the rest of the country is, but the post office is in great debt. Well, Lysander Spooner, he started his own mail service, and he was big on it, and he made a lot of money off of it. He made a lot of people happy. What did the government do, though? The government shut them down, and they shut them down just like they do anything else that they don't want. They don't want competition. And Lysander Spooner, upon reading him and doing this presentation, I did discover that he influenced Ron Paul's life. But the Constitution of the United States, I'm a strong supporter of. I preach it to everybody. Nathan back there, I try to talk to everybody about the Constitution. We should know it. We should read it as American citizens. But Lysander Spooner, he held a different view on the Constitution. He didn't believe in it. And the reason that he didn't believe in it is because he didn't believe that the government should, he didn't believe in any social contract with the government. He believed that the people should have, the government should have a contract with the people. The people shouldn't have to follow a constitution to keep the government in line. The government should stay in line. And but Lysander Spooner, he I have read much of his work from doing this presentation. He was a remarkable man. He'd be a good conservative politician, spokesman in today's world. And Ayn Rand, I'm sure a lot of you know, she's very popular, fiction novels, the 20th century. She wrote books like Atlas Shrugged, her most famous. And many conservatives follow Ayn Rand. Her economic views and many other views. They don't follow a lot of her social views, but she impacted Ron Paul. And there was a joke when his son ran for Senate in Kentucky. They asked him, "Did your dad name you after Ayn Rand?" But his real name's Randall, so he didn't name him after Ayn Rand. But Professor Alfonso gave me this presentation. We talked about it, and it was a great and enjoyable project to do. And but it's fun to find out who has impacted people's lives in the past. And that's my oral presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Liz Hammond. As Mr. Carter said, I'm going to be speaking about Parkinson's disease. I chose this in particular because it's close to me. My grandmother had Parkinson's, and I have an uncle with Parkinson's. The presentation, of course, is about Parkinson's disease, and it kind of just scratches the surface because you could talk about treatments and research and things that are going on with Parkinson's now for hours. There's a lot of things going on, so we're just going to get the basic points. Some of the questions that I'm going to try to answer tonight are, of course, what is Parkinson's disease? Why is it called Parkinson's disease? How is it diagnosed? Who gets it? Some of the characteristic symptoms of Parkinson's. The earlier signs and symptoms. What exactly happens with Parkinson's? What causes Parkinson's disease? I'm going to talk a little bit about the different things that occur during the moderate and advanced stages, and go over some treatment plans that they have in place, and just talk about, is there a cure for Parkinson's disease? First of all, what is Parkinson's? It is a degenerative neurological disease, which means it's a disease of the nervous system that gets worse over time. It generally progresses slowly. It can also be described as chronic progressive neurological. It affects a group of brain cells called neurons. These neurons get progressively worse over time. They can get injured, and then they selectively degenerate or die. It's sometimes called an idiopathic disease, which simply means that the cause of it is unknown. Parkinson's is not fatal, but the complications of Parkinson's are the 14th top cause of death in the United States. It is the most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States and Canada. It's called Parkinson's disease because it's named after the English physician James Parkinson, who first described the illness in his 1817 paper entitled Essay on the Shaking Palsy. How they diagnose Parkinson's is kind of difficult. You have to know what are signs and what are symptoms. Symptoms are what the patient complains of, and signs are what the doctor finds after examination. The initial symptoms can be very subtle, they can be overlooked or mistaken for other medical problems. A firm diagnosis is difficult in the early stages, and sometimes the only way to differentiate Parkinson's from other diseases is to see if the Parkinson's symptoms worsen. There is no definitive lab test for Parkinson's, and the diagnosis is based strictly on clinical judgment of the physician, generally a neurologist, who takes into account the patient's history and the physical examination. The MRIs and CT scans of the brains of people with Parkinson's generally appear normal, so those are not a good indicator. And that is because the changes that happen in the brain with Parkinson's are on a chemical level and they're microscopic, so they're not picked up by the scans. who gets Parkinson's disease. The average onset of age is age 60. And there is such thing as young onset Parkinson's disease, but it's very uncommon. Young, of course, is defined as older than 30 and younger than 50. A few famous people, and I put living with Parkinson's, however, I realized Johnny Cash is no longer with us. Of course, it's Johnny Cash, Michael J. Fox, Reverend Billy Graham, Muhammad Ali, and I also found out that Pope John Paul had Parkinson's, as well as they think even Hitler had Parkinson's. There are real people in the world that I can associate it with, one being my grandmother, Roane Mullinax. Her Parkinson's was controlled with medication, and she died eventually of cancer in 2007. My uncle J.L. Atkins was diagnosed in 2010 with Parkinson's, and currently he's still with medication, but he is completely bedridden. He isn't able to help himself at all. Some of the characteristic symptoms are tremor, rigidity, akinesia or slowness of movement, postural instability or gait and balance problems. Different people get these in different ways. They may start with a tremor, they may not get a tremor. It's a combination of several different things, and it varies from patient to patient. And not everyone that has these symptoms has Parkinson's. These symptoms are generally termed as Parkinsonism, which means they have the symptoms of Parkinson, but they can be associated with things such as stroke or the side effects of medication. Some of the early signs and symptoms, changes in facial expression. People may not be able to blink, or they may stare. Failure to swing one arm when they walk, stooped posture, a frozen, painful shoulder, limping or dragging of one leg, numbness, tingling, achiness or discomfort of the neck and limbs, a softness of the voice, subjective sensation of internal trembling, and resting tremor. What happens in Parkinson's disease? The neurons, or the nerve cells of the brain in the area known as the substantia nigra, or black substance, are primarily affected. When the neurons start to degenerate, the brain's ability to generate body movements is disrupted, which results in the signs and symptoms of Parkinson's. These neurons that are affected create dopamine, or produce dopamine. And the dopamine is the chemical that relays the messages between the substantia nigra and the other parts of the brain that control the movement. The symptoms of Parkinson's disease do not usually become noticeable until 80% of the cells of the substantia nigra have died. In the autopsies of Parkinson's patients, the brain appears normal except that the substantia nigra seems to have lost its black pigment. This is a graphic showing you where the nigra substantia is. You can see, maybe you can see it, it's a small area, very small, located deep within the brain. The causes of Parkinson's disease, it's not clear. There have been studies about environmental, if it's something environmental, if it's genetic, if it runs along racial lines, but so far there's nothing definitive about Parkinson's. With the moderate and advanced Parkinson's, the physical symptoms are tremor, which is the most common symptom, and what you generally associate with Parkinson's, everyone has seen the shaking. It usually begins on one side, but it's not incapacitating, and not all patients develop it. Rigidity, the patients rarely complain of this, but the doctors generally observe it during the physical examination. And again, not all patients will develop it. The pain is generally back and neck pain, and spasms, muscle spasms in the feet. Changes in the voice, they may be, the further this goes, the more impaired the speech is. They get softer spoken or slurred or even lose speech altogether. And there's also the problem of social isolation and communication problems. People are generally self-conscious with the tremors, or if their voice is slurred, they have trouble communicating, so they don't participate socially sometimes. The handwriting and the other hand dexterity. The handwriting will become smaller as the disease progresses and will become illegible sooner or later. A lot of people have trouble with things like buttons, things that are tedious with the hands, and repetitious things like brushing the hair, brushing the teeth. Some patients have difficulty with swallowing their medications. They may have trouble with swallowing drinks or food, but this can be different reasons to cause that. And the drooling, of course, is generally nocturnal, but as it progresses, it can be during the daytime as well. The postural instability, they have difficulty maintaining balance when they're standing or walking. They'll fall without warning and have difficulty getting in and out of a car. The gait difficulty, they may not swing their arms at all. They may drag one leg, walk a little slower, or they may shuffle their feet or get what they call a freezing, where they can't lift their foot to take a step. Many people that have this problem use canes and walkers and even wheelchairs. The autonomic system impairments associated with moderate and advanced Parkinson's disease are constipation, which is normal because their system is being slowed down with the progression of the disease. It gets worse. Diarrhea. This should not be caused by Parkinson's meds, so if a patient with Parkinson's experiences diarrhea, they should see a doctor immediately. Sexual dysfunction is basically due to they have difficulty in changing positions of their body, muscle stiffness, and any excitement may cause the tremors to increase. Bladder dysfunction, they may need frequent urination or bladder infection problems. The sweating is an uncommon symptom. It's generally very excessive and spontaneous, and it's more likely to occur in the advanced stages of Parkinson's. The behavioral problems and psychiatric symptoms of moderate to advanced Parkinson's disease. The mental ability declines after 5 to 10 years with Parkinson's. They may develop confusion and memory problems known as dementia. 1 in every 4 or 5 patients will have severe dementia. A significant number of patients suffer from depression and anxiety. Fatigue is another problem with non-Parkinson's patients. Their mobility is limited, so they don't exercise as much, but they get tired easy. About 40% of the patients have a fatigue disability. Drug-induced symptoms are the side effects from medications to take care of the tremors. For instance, they may experience hallucinations or delusions, in which case that may be so severe that they have to decide, do I want the hallucinations or do I want to deal with the tremors? They have to choose the symptom or the medication. Any unexplained weight loss in Parkinson's patients should be checked by a physician. If they're having difficulty swallowing, they may lose weight, but if they're not having the swallowing difficulty, it's definitely something serious. And they have problems just with daily living because just getting out of bed and getting dressed, having a meal is slow and tedious. They usually have to have the assistance of a family member or caregiver, and it severely limits their independence. The treatments for Parkinson's, of course, are tailored drug therapies tailored for individuals, and they're used basically to preserve the daily function and comfort of the patient. They are not to cure the patient, just to make it easier on them. The primary drugs for motor symptoms are levodopa, dopamine, and MAO inhibitors. The drugs for other symptoms, tricyclic antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and sedatives. There's no specific diet that helps Parkinson's patients other than just a healthy, balanced diet like everyone should have, but they do find that exercise, even moderate or just very little exercise of any amount, helps with the rigidity of the muscles. Is there a cure for Parkinson's disease? No, unfortunately not. But while there's not a cure for Parkinson's disease, researchers at Northeastern University in Boston have developed a gene therapy approach that may one day stop Parkinson's disease in its tracks, preventing the disease progression and reversing its symptoms. The focus of the research in the lab at Northeastern is to find a way to harvest the potential of the lipoid cell line-derived neurotropic factor, referred to as GDNF, as treatment for Parkinson's. And what this protein does is it's known already that it nourishes the dopamine neurons, and it can protect them from injury and even restore their function to the damaged or dying neurons. The problem they're having with this therapy is it needs to be injected directly into the affected area, but they're currently working on a way to have it inhaled, where it goes in and is taken directly that way. I hope that you learned something from this. I've really enjoyed you listening to me. Thank you.
My name is Megan Marshall,
My name is Robert Benedict.
and we are giving a presentation on the hopeful evolution of the Roane Physical Therapist Assistant Program.
All right, come on, you guys. You guys gotta look up, wake up, open your eyes. You gotta give me some energy because I feed off you, and if you start killing me, I will lay down and sleep, and the next person will not sleep.
So that's going to be a little interactive here in a second, but basically,
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the agenda. Roane State is known for their medical programs. They've got a great nursing program, a great OTA program, dental technology, radio technician, optometry. Did I say that right? Thank you. I put an R in it. Don't ask me why. I had a failure in earlier education, not education now. So what we're doing is we want to talk about how those programs are all getting an increase in space and finances at the Oak Ridge campus with their new facility. All those programs except for the PTA program. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell you about how there's a footprint available in the current structure that's available that will allow us to increase our efficiency with treatment, efficiency with equipment, as well as making transition more realistic for the students, preparing them to train more realistic for the actual treatment facilities that we go to and work after graduation. So some of the things we're going to be talking about is function. What is function? Megan's going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the footprint, basically what's available at the Oak Ridge campus. We're going to talk about equipment, the past equipment versus the future equipment, or what's being used now. Then we'll also be talking about predicted finances. Everybody wants to know, we want more space, we want more equipment, how much is it going to cost? That's the big thing, how much. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the industry and the benefits. And those two things are going to be really, what are people who are practicing right now as physical therapy and physical therapy assistants, what are they saying and what do they expect from students? And then we're going to talk about the benefits that these changes could have on the program.
Alright, so basically we're proposing to remodel the current PTA, or times a PTA classroom, from the original PTA classroom, a gym that we have next door, and then the occupational therapist classroom, which is right next door to ours, in exchange for, we use an additional classroom down the hallway a little bit. So this would just make it a little more fluid, and we'll show you diagrams later, but it's just to exchange one classroom for another, basically update some of the equipment we have, and it'll give us an inpatient and outpatient setting. So kind of a setting more like a hospital and then more like an outpatient clinic as well. All right, we're going to describe basically what function is, and function is the purpose for which something is designed for. So first, this is going to apply to the human body, so I want everyone to go ahead and stand up for me.
Come on, we said it's going to be interactive. Stand up. You all just got done eating. You got to move that food around a little bit.
Okay, so all we're going to do is just kind of reach with your right hand kind of across your body. Good, and neck down. We're going to do the other side too. Cross this way. Good, and then go ahead and sit back down. That's we're not going to make you exercise, just raise that head. But basically, as you can see here, our little skeleton guy, the muscles on his body, just like you guys all just did, are kind of on a diagonal. So that incorporates rotation into everything that you do. And so to be functional, you have to have that rotation. And some of the equipment and some of the old ways that people used to do physical therapy or rehab is kind of antiquated now, so we're trying to update it and get it more realistic. Okay, so again, to go along with function being the center of everything, current trends in exercise, we'll talk a little bit about that, go more towards these functional movements that we're talking about, what Medicare requires. Basically for us to bill for treatment, you have to do these what are called G codes, which basically incorporate function into everything. How us as PTA students need to be educated so that we function efficiently in the setting that we're going for, and then how our bodies are designed.
When we're talking about function, one of the things we mean is, how do you get the groceries out of the car? How do you put them on the floor or on the counter, and how do you put them up? And that's the same thing that she was just talking about with the diagonal movement. And you know, people aren't robots. They don't walk in and put the box down and get the thing out and turn and do everything in very restricted angles. Or very restricted singular plane motion. It's all multiplanar. We have some pictures here of basically the primary demographic for physical therapy right now, which is the baby boomers. And unlike previous generations of this age, these guys are active, man. They're dancing, they're golfing, they're gardening, they're going, I mean, my friend's grandpa just went surfing. I mean, he's like 64 and he's out surfing. I mean, that's awesome. But the point is he's active. And they're not sitting on the couch, so they do need to be trained and rehabbed in an active manner.
All right, I don't know if anyone's heard of CrossFit. It's a national phenomenon. My sister's a CrossFit coach or personal trainer, but basically their philosophy is constantly very high-intensity functional movements. Again, going with the American College of Sports Medicine, National Strength and Conditioning Association, these are big foundations that do research on basic exercise principles, and they're both just talking about functional fitness, being able to control your body weight and do these motions without pain and without limitation. So that's basically what functional movement is. That's where physical therapy and exercise in today's world is going. Okay, and just like we are training or rehabbing patients functionally, students like us need to be educated functionally. So this goes along with, just like when you're going to be an auto mechanic at school, you get trained with the cars actually in a garage and different things like that. So the same thing, we need to create these clinical settings in our education so that we're more proficient when we go out into our clinicals and then obviously out to be PTAs after this.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the footprint. I apologize if you can't see the blue text up there. It was actually supposed to bring attention to what it was. We give it the lighting. We're just not actually getting it. So what we're going to do is talk about real estate, and location is the key for real estate. What we're currently using in our current setting is a gym facility that's 170 square feet. The gym facility is exactly that. It's a gym facility. It was built as a wellness center for the employees to maintain their fitness. However, there's not proper staffing, so it is not used at that capacity anymore. It's used solely as the PTA programs, basically treatment facility for a clinical aspect. So that's 870 feet. Our traditional classroom is 576 feet. And then we have 1,088 feet, which is the classroom/clinic that we use. In addition to those three places, we actually have the beg and borrow to use the occupational therapy lab and the nursing lab so that we can get experience treating patients in a skilled nursing facility setting and in an inpatient setting. What's inconvenient about that is the only time we get to use those facilities is whenever we are actually going in the test. So we can't just go practice in this. There's a lot to worry about when you're talking about machines that are keeping people alive. You're talking about machines that are helping people breathe, monitor their blood pressure, giving them oxygen. And when you don't have that stuff to train and then you get sent out to the clinic, you don't want to look like a fool. You want to look like, hey, I'm from Roane State. I know what I'm doing. You're going to hire me.
And you need to be safe medically, obviously, with our patients. So that's why it's so important. So this is our current classroom, mostly where we learn most of our knowledge. So we have some treatment tables that we sit on for desks. This is our traditional classroom where we'd say you learn more of the textbook information. This is a cutout to where, this is our gym. This is the entrance to the gym. You can see the wall has been resected and kind of indented out. So basically some of the construction we'll talk about here in a second is to bring this wall back and give us additional square footage to replace some of this older equipment to go ahead and trade out this room for the OTA lab that we'll talk about.
Keep this picture in mind, how the hallway has got this big chunk missing out of it. We're going to address that in a moment. So here's basically a bird's eye view of what we're currently using. The far left is the gym, and that's the current equipment that's in there. And then in the middle is the PTA classroom, which we currently use. We're using our treatment tables as desks because we don't have space for anything else. Whenever we need to use the treatment tables, we have to spread everything out so we're not crawling on top of each other like monkeys at the zoo. And then this area over here is actually the occupational therapy classroom/laboratory. And what our proposal is we have another classroom that's a little bit further down the hall on the far end that we go to for our traditional in-class studies. Well, the OTA class and program is going to be moving to the new building. So we want to go ahead and let somebody else have that classroom that's down the hall and take the one that's next to us. And the reason is, A, it's next to us, B, we can equip it to operate as an inpatient setting. And one of the perks is we have a bathroom that's already in there. The bathroom is actually set up, designed to be used as a training facility for technique or for people in the field as far as physical therapy and occupational therapy go. And we'll show you a picture of that in a moment.
All right, now to go with some of the equipment that we are needing to bring to our current gym. Obviously, we know this is a very old picture, but this is kind of showing some of the outdated ideas that people had about exercise back in the day. And still, all this equipment was bought more than 10 or 12 years ago. So this is very outdated equipment. This is all equipment in one plane. So I'm either like picking something up like this. I don't know how often maybe today everyone does this. I don't do it very much. Well, maybe with my folks. more of a training driver can go into. Basically, we're equipping the students to learn how to exercise so they can work with their patients in that fashion.
We're not saying that this equipment isn't any good. We're not saying it doesn't do what it's designed to do, but it's designed to make people look good standing in front of the mirror. It's designed for an aggressive fitness aspect. And Megan mentioned earlier when she was talking about the studies that have been done. Now with the doctorate in the physical therapy, we have people in the profession actually doing scientific studies. Science doesn't change. There is quantitative data that supports the use of certain equipment in relationship to rehabilitation of patients with certain ailments. This equipment is none of it.
Okay, so basically what we're trying to do is transition, like we said, from that classroom on the hallway to incorporate the OTA lab into a new part of, so this is what their lab looks like now. That has some lower treatment tables. So basically this would be an inpatient setting, so like a hospital, so we'll have hospital beds in there, the bathroom for bathroom transfers and different things, because every time you put the patient in the hospital, as soon as you get them up, gravity's going to work, and you need to take them to the bathroom, so this would be an awesome thing to have. And also there's a part of the kitchen to work with, so we can work with kind of functional things with our patients in the kitchen, or if you give them more exercise programs, you work on reaching a lot, or balance activities, we usually say, well, on the kitchen sink, we'll actually be able to kind of simulate that and have a setting like this.
The bathrooms are a big key because we're not having to pay for somebody to come and build it. We're going to be able to use it. Like Megan said, if you're at a skilled nursing facility, someone's got to be able. You want Nana to be able to go to the bathroom, and we're going to be able to train someone to teach them how to go to the bathroom. If somebody's in an outpatient setting and they just had a total hip or a total knee, if you just had it, you want to be able to go to the bathroom on your own when you get home. We're going to be able to train people to make sure that when you get to see us in the clinic, you're going to be able to do it. Okay. Same thing for inpatient. Whenever you just got done having surgery and Megan stands you up, gravity can take effect. You want to be able to know that you're going to be able to get up and go to the bathroom on your own. And we currently pretend that we have a bathroom, and pretend doesn't have walls, and none of us are minds or trained in that aspect whatsoever. But it's not realistic. And just like she showed the slide earlier with the vehicle, you wouldn't go to a surgeon who only practice surgery on that little operation room, right? You want to go to a physical therapist assistant who's training on current equipment that is being used that has quantitative data.
All right, basically this is kind of the remodel that we're talking about. This wall right here, we've kind of pulled out and given us a little over 100 more square feet in this facility of the gym. We've taken out all that outdated equipment around the edge, given us more room. We've knocked up a hole in the wall for some doors so we can just pull right into that gym. We've put we'll explain some of the equipment that we have in there for later, and then we go over here to the occupational therapy, occupational assistant, and we have the hospital beds set up. We'll have back here will be like a private treatment room or simulated private treatment room for physical therapists to do their email, come out in the bathroom. Education right here. So we'll kind of go into some of the equipment then we are thinking about.
This place also gives us a little bit more storage. We actually have stuff stored in other classrooms that if we need to access, we have to wait for other classes to get out, because there's a math class going on, there's an English class going on, and they don't want us walking in, taking our skeletons out of lockers against the wall when they're in the middle of talking about, I don't know, the Odyssey or whatever the topic is that's being taught. So that big closet that she mentioned is also a storage area. We're talking about equipment. You can see on the far left, the wall-mounted pulley. The wall-mounted pulley is awesome because it goes up and down. We can change the level of direction. We can put somebody in a chair, set them on a ball, set them on the floor, have them standing. But what's really essential is it's going to be a movement that's allowed to be replicated by what you're doing in day-to-day life. If you're going to come here and pick up the dishes, you're going to pick it up and you're going to go like this. You're not going to pick up and do the robot thing. So we're going to be able to add the rotational component to therapy. And the stretch cage,
So we're not going to go over basically all the equipment, but it incorporates rotation and dynamic stabilization and multi-planar movements. Okay, so that's what all this is about basically. The total gym shown on the bottom right to you guys just allows you to more be able to handle your body weight. A Wii is something we've asked for, and there's a lot of different balance activities that you can do with your neurologic patients that balance deficits with that.
Parkinson therapy. They use Wii's as well as dancing, but they use a Wii.
So this is more versatile aerobic equipment. So treadmills. There's what we call upper body ergometers, which is like bicycle for your hands. Rowers, a nice big full functional body movement.
Currently, our gym has a treadmill that does not work.
Doesn't work.
We have 11 bicycles that are all set up way high. So if someone had a total hip, total knee, they're not getting on those. They're not recumbent, they're not low. There is nothing for upper extremity if someone had a shoulder exercise. A lot of the stuff that we just showed you as far as equipment is all wall mounted. So the blueprint that you saw and little things hung on the wall, that we get so much space by changing to this equipment. And typically it's much cheaper than the equipment we have. And now that we're on finances, the equipment that we have, we either want to sell it or we want to try to give it to one of the other campuses so they can either plus up their gym or open up another gym. Roane State's always add another campus here or there, just like Mississippi State does. So I'm sure that the equipment can be used somewhere or it can be sold to someone, some local school, or even donated and taken on taxes or whatever. But there's a way to get money for that current equipment. If you look at our overall projected cost, it's $30,000. There are pieces of equipment in the nursing program. One piece of equipment, one bed, costs more than $30,000.
Over
Okay.
$70,000 actually. So this is less than half of what one piece of equipment in their nursing facility costs. Okay.
As far as some of the equipment, we've actually gotten some of the equipment is going to be donated. But we need about $30,000, $5,000 for construction. The rest would be for other equipment, like the cardio equipment that Megan mentioned earlier.
And if you can see, compared to how much money yearly we just kind of guesstimated for tuition, we know there's many other expenses, but your average 20-person class brings in over $140,000 every year. So we think compared to the amount of money that we know the program's bringing in, obviously there are other costs, this is a very relatively low budget to be able to do all these changes with.
And this isn't an annual expense. Just like when the program started 15 years ago, $25,000 was used for the equipment that's currently in the gym. It's been 15 years and it's time to change, just like the therapy has changed out in the real world. So $30,000 really isn't asking for that much when you think about the scope. And you know, you want people from the Roane State to project the confidence that the Roane State programs have.
Okay, now going into, we kind of set out a little survey we gave to some practicing clinicians, some of our educators, to see what they would say, what type of equipment they would want, and just what they say about an educational program for physical therapy assistants in general. Kurt seems to be actually who have run our program for a long, long time now, so he's a back practicing clinician, and Kurt's going to be as well. You know, we took into consideration some of the equipment that they thought would be most beneficial, so we placed that in our gym. I like what Susie said. She said it's essential to reproduce a current clinical atmosphere with an emphasis on function and client carryover at home. That's just so essential to what physical therapy is all about.
We had 3 other people that we surveyed, and 2 of them talked about some of the equipment. We asked them, hey, if you started a brand new equipment, or brand new clinic, what type of equipment would you want in your clinic? Or if you had a brand new graduate, what equipment would you want them to have experience with? And that's some of the equipment that we put into our projection. And then one of the things that Amy White, a doctor of physical therapy, mentioned is it's all about angles and function. Older machines don't support that. The evolution of therapy is backed by research, and it is not intimidating to patients. When she said that, she meant that when Mom goes to therapy and she sees all these big gym equipment, she thinks those commercials like I pick things up and I put them down. You know, you guys have seen that Planet Hollywood commercial, right? Well, they kind of get intimidated by that equipment and think, well, I'm not here to get big. I don't want to look like I belong on some freak show. But this equipment is less intimidating.
It's not even for obviously our older population of patients, just for anyone who's going to go. So any of you who would go, you want the best therapy possible. These functional movements, the way that physical therapy is heading, is very specific to that individual. So if you want to be able to climb 19 stairs, then that's what the goal is going to be. And so we need to incorporate exercises and different treatments for all the different population that we see. All right, so basically the benefits of this would be the ultimate goal of any medical educational program, which is quality education to result in quality care of all your patients. So what the PTA program would gain is more square footage. Obviously, we're still giving up that other room, but we gain, I think, a little over 200 more.
We gained a little over 200 feet, and that 200 feet, actually 150 of it or more or so, is actually in that demolition of the gym and reconstruction of the wall.
We get the inpatient setting with the hospital beds, very vital to have that, and then more of a current outpatient setting. Then we'd also get the bathroom, kind of the kitchen for more functional settings that you'd have with people at home. And then I found this quote by Benjamin Franklin I thought was so great. We all know how wonderful and competitive the Roane State Physical Therapy System program is. However, as Benjamin Franklin says, without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, success have no meaning. I think it's a great way to look at it, because if you don't strive to always excel and become better, you're just going to level off and kind of blend in with the rest of the programs around here. So
one of the things that we're trying to convey is if you go to you go to Roane State and Oak Ridge, you walk into the dental technician department, it looks like you're in the dentist office. If you walk into the OTA lab, it looks like you're in a clinic that you're going to be treating that for occupational therapy. The same thing can be said for radon X-ray technician. And we're just wanting to bring this program up to par with the other programs. And this isn't anything that I'm going to benefit from, or she's going to benefit from.
We're going to be gone by
We're leaving. But there is a young girl in here who does want to be a PTA, who does want to go to the program. So you would benefit from it.
And we're just doing this, I mean, we really wish it would have been like this, and we decided, well, not like this now, we want to kind of see what the vision would look like for what it could be. Thank you for listening to us. I know we were very long-winded, we could talk about this for days. As the American Sports College of Medicine says, exercise is medicine. And thank you very much. If you have any more questions, you can always come and talk to us.
And we got data, if you want data, we can give you some handouts you can ask some things. Thank you.
My name is Allison Meadows, and this is my first year here at Roane State. I went to Rockwood High School. I am here I'm a studio art major. About a year ago, when I was still in high school, my 8th grade English teacher came to me asking for pictures of like proverbs and euphemisms, because that's what she was teaching in her classroom. And so I ended up doing those for her, and one day Miss Barriga is very, very interested in her students' lives. And I showed her those pictures, and she wanted me so badly to do this, and I said, well, no, I might, but flattery got her everywhere, so I went ahead and did them for her. What she really wanted me to do was find Spanish proverbs that we share in English. The really interesting thing was, we have the same ones, but a lot of times they're different. There's one I really wanted to do, I just didn't have the time for it, but it was their version of "You Can't Teach Old Dogs New Tricks" was an old parrot can't learn to talk. So they have the same ones, but they use different animals. They're just slightly different. So I was able to do 2 for her. One is this one right here. It's "Más vale pájaro en mano que cientos volando." Anyone want to take a stab at what it means? Yeah, it's a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and for the Spanish translation is a bird in the hand is worth 100 flying. My next one was this one. It's "Cada oveja con su pareja," and it's one that we have for us, but they use a different kind of animal for it. We'll try. It is. It's birds with feathers flock together, but instead they use sheep instead of birds. So this one was kind of hard because I had never drawn sheep before, and I was like, but it was a really, really interesting project because it gave me a chance to really look at this culture and similarity to our own. Just because it's interesting thinking of why they would use a different animal compared to us, but I had a lot of fun with this, and Miss Barriga was very, very good getting me to do this, and I really enjoyed it, so thank you.
Hello, my name is Dawn Mishmash, and my project is for Dr. Barriga's Spanish 1010 online course. There are many advantages to online learning. You have 24-hour access, 7 days a week. You have ability to manage your time the way you need it, as well as location. You get to stay at home if you need to. In addition, you have self-paced learning. Gives you the ability to build your knowledge and confidence and take responsibility for your own actions. However, there is one disadvantage to the online program, and that's the lack of a study partner. With a study partner, you are able to retain information, build self-confidence, achieve higher GPAs with that. So therefore, my project aimed at becoming your own study partner online. What I've done is I've taken the many resources provided by Dr. Barriga and entered them into an online program called Quizlet. And this program allows you to access various study modes, utilize audio-visual cues and repetition, which helps aid in learning. And this is it. What it is each unit has been separated. Each of Dr. Barriga's units have been separated into smaller units to make studying easier. The first program, this is like a flashcard program here, and here is your flashcard mode. And what it does is it uses audio-visual as well as other cues to do the program. It gives you your definition and the term. You have the ability to go slow or fast with each of the things, as well as your presentation speed, how you view it, either vocabulary or definition words. And you can do it in order or random also. The second part of this is the games. There's two different games you can play here, and the first one is your scatter program. What it does is it takes the definition and the vocabulary words and puts them on the screen, and you have to try to match them. It keeps your time here to see how fast you can go. The second one is space race. With the space race here, you have the word across the screen and you have to try to type the answer before it leaves the screen. If you don't make it, the program stops and it gives you the correct term in which you have to type before the program goes on. After that, we have the study modes. There's three parts of the study modes, and the first one is your speller. The speller mode uses a visual definition as well as audio in which you have to type the answer. The second one is the learning program. With the learning mode, you have visual aids, and it gives you a definition and prompts you with the correct vocabulary word. Again, if you're incorrect, it stops the program. It tells you where you made your mistake and how to correct it. And finally, we have the test mode. In the test mode, you have the ability to change. There's many different things here that you can change. The written, you can choose matching, multiple choice, true and false questions. You can do the test where it prompts you with vocabulary or definition terms, and you can also tell it how many questions you want. In the end, it'll tell you how many you've gotten correct, how many you've gotten incorrect along with the correct information, and it also keeps score for you. As with all these programs, it keeps your score so that you can focus on areas that you need improvement as well as track your improvement over time. As a very horrible experiment, I decided to not use any resources for a couple of my tests. I didn't utilize this program or the extra resources that Dr. Barriga has, which she does on her online course. She has many programs. My average scores for the written exam, I had 4 scores at 100% and 1 score at 98.6%. Without doing the extra resources, my one test score was 89, which is about 10 points off my average. Dr. Barriga also gives an oral quiz where you have to record yourself, and I had 2 scores at 98.75%. Without these additional resources, my score was 75%, which is 24 points lower than normal. So I did this, I know it's a little biased, but I did this just to show you how important resources are in your learning. Not just the material, you have to go and do other things to try to enhance your learning skills. And while, of course, in conclusion, the ultimate burden is on each student to do his or her best and to try to do all the resources that they can. But I do believe that this program, along with the other resources that are available, really help with the learning process. Thank you.
All the students who did presentations tonight, we want to give them a certificate and a pen. So as I call your name, would you come and stand, and Marilyn and I will give them their certificate. Caitlin Barnes, Helen's still here. Kenny Collins. We'll recognize everyone wants to get up here. Tricia Davidson. Angela Davis. Shannon Clark. David Giles. Michelle Herbert. Elizabeth Conan. Sue Lee. Jonathan Moore. Sarah Pelly. Amy Scott. Ashley Taft. Mason Van Horn's performing right now, so I'll get his to him later. Robert Benedict. Megan Marshall. Woo! Yeah!
I would run, but I can't.
Liz Hammond. Somehow I got yours out of alphabetical order. I was wondering if I'd forgotten it. Allison Meadows. Don Mishmash. Oh, I see. The tail presenters are in alphabetical order, then the oral presenters are in alphabetical order. We also want to recognize students here tonight who are graduating, who have earned at least the 18 hours that will allow them to receive an honors diploma. And that would be Elizabeth Conan. We want to give them a little medallion. So for Elizabeth. Sarah Pelly. And Sue Lee. So we have a round of applause for all of them.
Well, first I'd like to thank all the parents and siblings and children and family who are here. You're very supportive, wonderful people, I can tell that. I'd like to thank the faculty and the administration who had a very busy time this semester, and we really appreciate that. Most of all, I'd like to thank the honors students. They take on extra duties
They agreed to do more work in their college classes than they have to. They are here tonight. They're busy people. I know you all have places to be, but they certainly do. Mr. Heyer, I have to say, is the best co-coordinator any person could ever have to work with. But the students, they are a credit to Roane State and just a joy to work with. Thank you. And everyone drive safely.